sure many of you have been waiting for this moment.
You know, now that I think about it, I think I actually put the truck back a little too far, so we're gonna have to move that.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to Terrible Financial Decisions. I am Superstar64, and it's about time I finally show off the truck that I've been teasing for months now. So, yeah. Stuff happened with the money that I won from Whistling Diesel, and it turns out I bought with it a big truck. So as I'm sure a lot of you are aware, I decided to spend some of the money on a Ford F-350 from 1990 with a 7.3 IDI in it. That's basically the gist of this video, so if that's all you wanted to hear, the door's that way, or this way, or maybe it's that way. I don't know, I can't see that way. For those of you who are more interested, stick around, because there's a lot to talk about with this truck. A little bit of backstory first. See, for a while now, I've kind of wanted a diesel truck. In fact, for a while, I mean since I was a little kid. I always dreamed of getting like a 2008 style truck. And this was before I realized those trucks were actual garbage.
They had a lot of issues with the water pumps eating the front covers alive, the pistons melting down, just mainly they would run way too hot and the emission systems would just cook the motors to death.
And nobody liked them, and that's why I don't see them anymore. Other than the ones that have been emissions deleted. But anyway, so ever since I was a little kid, I always wanted a diesel truck. And when I started driving, I see all these kids with diesel trucks as well. There's some other stuff that I'm not going to talk about, but basically, when I won the money, I figured, you know, now's probably a better time than ever to buy a diesel truck, because I always wanted a diesel truck. So my requirements were simple. I wanted the ability to seat more than 2 people, an 8-foot bed, and a diesel engine, and 4-wheel drive unless it was a dually. And I managed to break that last rule because this truck is a dually. At the same time, I didn't break the rule. Mostly, I was looking for a 4-door truck with an 8-foot bed and a diesel engine, and I got a 4-door truck with an 8-foot bed and a diesel engine. The search started sometime, I believe, last year, and it only exemplified when I got the money. And I eventually found a really nice 1996 7.3 Power Stroke extended cab, and I was fully prepared to buy it. The guy wanted $8,000 for it, and I was like, yeah. And then my grandma somehow managed to talk me out of going to look at it. Fast forward later, the prospect comes up again in the summertime, and I'm like, you know what, I don't care, I'm just going to do it this time. So I ended up looking at 2 trucks. One of them was a 1994 7.3 IDI extended cab dually long bed, and the other one was a red 1990 7.3 IDI with 4 doors and a crew cab. Now, the first one I ended up looking at was the 1994, and I have no footage of that. Not like you'd want to see it, because it makes me look like an absolute idiot for even going to this guy's house. The guy wanted $6,500 for it, and for lack of a better term, the truck was basically falling apart. I could go beyond that, but, you know, it's a good thing I didn't buy it. The other truck was the red truck, which the guy wanted $5,300 for it, and he was pretty firm about that, as he told me several times. And long story short, this guy who totally does not look like Young Gravy at all sold me a 1990 F-350. So let's go take a look at it, shall we? Figured I'd get this moment on video. So see, I broke down over on that highway over there. It's called 62. My gas gauge is here, but I'm not 100% sure that I do because it's not starting. Oh wait, the glow plugs aren't even really cycling because it's too fucking hot already. Anyway, after that little mishap, let's actually take a look at the truck now. Of course, it's been a couple weeks since I filmed the last clip of this video versus now, but you know, it's still here. It's only changed a little bit. Yo, it's a Super Duty. Anyway, yeah, this is a 1990 F350. You can tell it's a slightly newer one because of the way the grill is. I actually didn't notice before, but after seeing a Facebook post, I now notice there's a difference between the older 87 style trucks versus these newer ones. Supposedly, this is technically a 90s truck, but really it's an 80s truck. So yeah, when I first bought the truck, that's actually probably the best look of the truck that you're ever gonna get in this state. When I first bought the truck, there was nothing where that 7.3 badge is now. I put that there because you could see the outline of where the diesel badge used to be, but it's non-existent anymore. Yeah, fun times. You can see the chrome package is getting a little fucked up down there on the bumper, but the license plate thing is still there. I don't need it because Ohioans don't have to have front license plates anymore. Thank fucking God. Going around to any side part of the truck, you'll immediately notice a big issue. This fender is probably the worst part of the paint side of things. The clear coat is it's probably gone on this actually. This is obviously a red truck. Fender is a slightly different color of red it seems, but it looks original to the truck, and I'm pretty sure it is just faded. And it's got a ton of spots where you can see the metal. It's a fucking disaster. But hey, at least the F350 badge is still intact, and I was able to reattach the XLT Lariat badge, because yes, this is the fanciest truck of 1990. Of course, you can also see old-ass towing mirrors. Now, these are not exactly the best towing mirrors in the world, and I'll tell you why right now. If I go any harder, that thing will snap off and I won't have a mirror anymore. Yeah, at some point, somebody effed up the mirror and it actually doesn't flip in anymore. Otherwise, it'd be just fine. Also, perhaps the driver's door is the best looking thing on the truck. Don't at me. Oh, and I forgot to mention this really cool feature. Smoker windows. This is where I have some explaining to do. So we'll start from the bottom and work our way up here. So this has old classic style running boards on it. You know, the type that go up around the fender, and they actually have running boards on the bed too. So technically you can consider it a step side. But anyway, I'm sure you've already noticed this. Let's get it out of the way. There's a big rust spot here, and there was a big rust spot up here earlier in the video. And since then, I've taken a Dremel with a sanding bit, sanded this down to the bare metal, then I put some of this rust converter on it per the suggestion of a Facebook user on the IDI group. And it looked like black spray paint, but it's okay because I was gonna just spray paint this to prime it, right? Well, it turns out I got the wrong color. So now it's got this really kind of shitty looking red spot. And you can also tell where I grinded away the paint. It's not the best. I want to get this thing professionally repainted in black because black trucks look cool. Then oh wait, I forgot to mention the grab handles on this truck. These are these I got it with the truck, as well as that you know, sun visor thing. It actually really helps in the morning. But grab handles are basically the replacement for the ones that every modern vehicle inside has. But on this truck, they're on the outside. Like that. Now since then, I've added a Superstar 64 decal to the window. And yes, you can actually roll the window down and it doesn't actually, you know, fall off.
And if you're wondering what that bit above it is, that's a little something I like to call cheerleader paint. Yes, I play football for my hometown, and yes, cheerleaders do this kind of thing. Not gonna get into all of that. This is what I really hate about the truck, and this is probably the worst part of the entire truck. The bed. Now, don't get me wrong, the bed is solid on this truck, but the problem is, not only does it have rust spots on the outside, but you could probably tell there's a bit of rust holes on the inside of the bed as well. So this whole thing is going to need replaced. Now, I can save these bed size because, believe it or not, these are just fiberglass. Oh, I forgot to mention, those are probably aftermarket. These don't look like stock Ford rims for these dually trucks, mostly because they're not rusted out. Either that or they're just hubcaps. You tell me. But hey, let's look on the bright side. At least my tailgate is still intact, even if it looks like shit. And also, this is kind of coming off, and so is this entire cover. Yeah, it's a slight issue. Now, the previous owner of this truck that I got it off of, he said he was going to take this bumper off of it until he realized that, oh wait, these things can actually haul a ton of weight. So he didn't take the towing bumper off of it. That is a solid steel bumper, by the way. It's pretty nice, except for the fact that it has rust holes in it because it's steel, and yeah. But hey, look. Stock mud flaps. It's not like my Ranger, which doesn't have fucking mud flaps at all. I think that's an ambulance. Anyways, I think I'd like to take a moment just to appreciate like the absolute size of the dually trucks. These things actually do look kind of cool, especially from the rear view here. Of course, from the angle I'm looking at it, so you can see this dually fender right here. For comparison, you actually cannot see. Son of a bitch, I fucking hate this tripod. You actually can't see from this angle the other side, so it looks like it's a single rear wheel truck. So this is basically just a comparison shot. Oh, I'm glad I can show this now because everybody knows my actual name from the Whistling Diesel thing, which is the only reason I was able to buy this truck. Thanks, Cody. There's not a whole lot to say about about this side of the truck that hasn't been said about the other one. You know, this is where the exhaust is. It's kind of like a stock pipe, but it is a straight pipe exhaust, and you can't see it from this angle. But if you look just right, you can actually see the exhaust tip is from Sinister Diesel, which I don't think they make anymore. So come get me. Also, that marker light on this dually fender used to be fully intact, and then I did a thing called smashing it against my aunt's garage. So, whoops, it still functions, but I kind of smashed it up. Oh, and yes, I am one of those people. I put an F Super Duty badge on an F-350. Don't judge me, please. You know, they say you're not supposed to judge a book by its cover. It's what's on the inside that counts. So let's take a look on the inside of this truck. I love these door handles. You just press the button and it's very satisfying when you hear that click. Mint. Going back to my previous statement about the XLT Lariat thing, I do believe this truck is basically the closest thing they had in 1990 that we have to a family truck now. Yeah, XLT Lariat, that was the high-end package I can't say back in the day, I'm not that old. Back in 1990, that was pretty much this is basically a limited from back then. Or I think limited is the most high-end these days. Lariat doesn't mean shit anymore, does it? But what all do you get with the fancy truck? Well, let's look at these doors here. So, this doesn't have any of those shitty crank windows. No. This has automatic windows. Actually, that's a lie. It doesn't have automatic windows. But what it does have...
That's a lie. It doesn't have automatic windows, but it does have power windows. So yes, this does actually have a power window motor in it. Both the windows work, and I say both of the windows because as you probably already figured out, if I don't knock the tripod over here. First off, this door panel is a piece of shit because it doesn't want to hold on anymore. But the back door, because this truck was made for a construction crew, has crank windows. But the funny part is, so this truck has power locks too, right? I'm sure you noticed that already. Yeah, it has power locks in the back, but it doesn't have power windows. That wasn't an option until 1995. Although I will say, going back to the power windows, I suppose I should also talk about issues that I've already fixed that I didn't bother to film because they weren't worth filming. So, one of the things I noticed when I got the truck home was 2 of the power locks quit working. Turns out, the issue was the actuators had died. Like, they just kind of seized up and didn't work anymore. So, I ordered ones on eBay, and they didn't fit quite properly, nor were they as strong as the originals. So what I did was I went to a place called the Pull Apart, and I pulled door lock actuators out of an E-Series van. I'm sure you can tell how bad this went. So electrically they fit, because it was an 89 and a 1990 respectively. And the problem is the little metal bar that actuates the door lock isn't the same length between the different models that they used. So yeah, I pretty much had to jerry rig it myself just to make it work, but hey, this is what we have in the end. It actually works. In addition to that, we have actual storage pockets on this truck. The Ranger doesn't even have that, and it's the sport package, but this has storage pockets in the door. There's one down here and there's one up here. This is actually slightly discolored now because a bird shit on it. I'm not even joking. A bird literally shit into the cab and it hit my arm, and that was the same day it broke down. That was a terrible day. You have this door handle that's notorious for breaking, but mine works. And like I said, smoker windows. So perhaps I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but when I bought this truck, I knew 2 things about it that were wrong with it. The first one was that the front the front diesel tank was leaking. And I can confirm when I tried to fill it, it just started leaking everywhere. In fact, I even took this to one of my friend's houses and he told me to move it because it was leaking shit in his driveway and it was diesel fuel. But the second thing was that the air conditioner didn't work. And yes, the air conditioner did not work right up until I put R134 in it, and then it started working miraculously again. Strange how that works. And of course, since it's a fancy boy truck, you gotta have your cloth, I think, material on the door. It's not like that squatted truck that had fur on the doors, but you know. I turned the lights on to demonstrate this, although you did hear it earlier in this video. So since this is a higher end truck, it doesn't have a shitty buzzer in it that annoys the hell out of you. It has a nice little dinger that annoys the hell out of you after a while. I was showing this truck to one of my friends, and we were listening to this door chime for probably 5 or 10 minutes straight. And by the time I closed the door, I was like, I felt the sweet release of death. So fundamentally, this is an 80s truck. And it takes a lot of cues from the previous generation bullnose trucks, which were basically 1975 on the inside. So you have the pull-out switch for the lights. Of course, that being the headlights / tail lights, whatever. And you have this thing which controls the brightness of the instrument panel. And of course, once you turn it all the way, that light stays on. And that's also how you turn the cargo light on in the back, which also does work. Not very well, but it does function. Now you also have, instead of the OBS trucks where they have this on the turn signal thingy, what the fuck do you call this? Tell me in the comments below. That function was here on this little dial switch. So you can turn it left. What the hell am I doing with my life? You turn it right once, and it will continuously wipe the windshield. You can turn it to the right twice, and it'll do that faster. But Superstar, does this thing have intermittent wipers? And yes, it does. This was an option in 1990. But if you turn it to the left, you actually have what feels like a dimmer. And this controls the speed, the intermittent speed of the wipers. Now, it works nothing like modern ones do, and if it's raining hard enough, you just have it on continuous anyway, especially because, you know, it's old 1990s electronics and it works like shit. You have your fuel selector switch here, which apparently on these trucks is notorious for breaking, but this one seems to work okay, but it's useless because the front tank doesn't work. Of course, you have the turn signal, and this truck has tilt steering. Now, this is what we know nowadays as an adjustable steering wheel, which also the Ranger does not have. But, you know, it's different on this one. So you'd think this would be the control for the tilt steering, but no, this is actually, if your key gets jammed, you press this and it locks the steering wheel so you can take the key out of the truck. I know, it's weird. You might as well just duct tape this in because the steering wheel functions just fine if it's stuck in like this. And sometimes you don't even have to do that. But no. So, also getting ahead of myself, the high beam switch is on the floor. Of course, you activate that with your feet. So, in 1990, the tilt steering was actually on the turn signal stock. Yeah, don't tell me in the comments, I actually know what I'm talking about now. And of course, then the steering wheel immediately flies up and you can adjust it. Although it has very limited increments. There's like 5, maybe 6. I prefer to keep mine in the middle because that's just what I'm used to. And I'm sure you've caught this already, but in addition to the horn, which is center mount, like you can't press here and activate the horn. This has a little thing called cruise control, which the Ranger also does not have. And the funny part about this is that, like, it works completely different than it does nowadays. And I thought it wasn't even working originally. So, here's the story. There's no actual indicator light on the dashboard or the instrument panel that tells you, hey, your cruise control is activated. There's absolutely nothing that tells you that because there's very few indicator lights on there to begin with. So, you have to go off by instinct. But in addition to that, the cruise control takes like 8 to 10 seconds maybe to even activate once you set your speed. So you press the on button, right? And let's say you're going 55 miles an hour down the highway and you want it to keep that speed. So you hit the set button and you let off the gas or diesel, whatever fuel your truck takes. So what happens is it'll start to slow down, obviously. So you start to panic. And then after a little while, it'll just keep on going like nothing ever happened. And that's because the way the cruise control works on these, it's not necessarily as much of a computer as it is nowadays. But what it does, it'll actually press in the gas pedal to keep you up to your desired speed. And on top of that, once you set your speed, it goes about 2 miles below that because my speedometer is probably a piece of shit anyway. That's just how it works. Also, when I got the truck, it didn't originally come with this piece. This just goes over the dome light so it doesn't blind you. But yeah, so now it's actually brighter in the cabin, you can see. Of course, it's a bit hard to demonstrate this now since it's getting dark, so I'm gonna have to film the rest of this on another day, but I'm sure you've already noticed this. This truck is a stick shift. So this has the ZF5 manual, the one that every 7.3 Power Stroke owner wants so desperately because the E40D sucks for those trucks. Of course, it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, and overdrive because they had to be dicks and not just say 5th gear. On top of that, if you try to shift into reverse from 5th, it doesn't work. You actually have to move it over, and then you can shift into reverse. If you have one of these trucks, you can totally try that. Not while you're moving, of course, but yeah, because it's not going to work unless your transmission's a piece of shit. Let's talk some more interior features. So obviously this part's different. Most of the trucks don't have this. It's the wait to start and water and fuel light. This is, of course, exclusive to the IDI diesel / power smoke diesel if you have a newer truck than this. And well, this literally tells you to wait to start. What this is indicating is that the glow plugs are operating, and of course it'll come on every time you turn the key on. Right? And of course this water and fuel light, well, it comes on every time you turn the key to start. But I believe it also indicates something about the fuel filter that's underneath the hood. Another thing about these diesels is that they had factory tachometers. Now, a lot of Ford trucks have factory tachometers. All of the diesels have them standard. It was an option on the other trucks. And this one's cool because it's got the mayo, but it's also got the mustard and the ketchup. Although you can tell it's not a Power Stroke because it doesn't say turbo diesel down here. But it does say diesel fuel only on the gas gauge, right? Of course, you got the climate controls here. Nothing like it is these days. Well, actually, these days you got an iPad to do that I'm filming this on. Before that, you had the dials generally, and before that, we had these switches. So this is a this is just a 4-segment switch. So low, high, and 2 in between that. Of course, you got your options here. This will tell you what the fan is going to do, and it'll also activate the air conditioner. There's a different one that doesn't have an air conditioner. Yes, AC was not standard on these trucks, but these vents, the upper vents were standard on these trucks, just for the record. And then you got the cooling going over to the warm, everything in between. You know, makes sense. And I'm sure you figured it out by now. There's also no airbags in this truck. But it does say XLT Lariat, so that's kind of cool, I guess. I'm sure you can tell that radio is not standard. If it was, it would have a cassette player and not a whole lot else. So obviously this is just an aftermarket Sony unit. It doesn't have Bluetooth, unfortunately, but it does work with iPods, so that's pretty cool. One last thing to mention before moving on is the folding rear bench seat in place of the folding seat in a standard cab truck. So you still have the extra storage behind there. Oh, and before anybody asks, that rose did not come from a girl. It came from the pull apart, which this truck should probably be sponsored by at this point. I found it on the seatbelt of another F-150.
While kids might be scared of monsters under the bed, some guys are scared of monsters underneath the hood. I'm of course referring to the 7.3 liter IDI diesel engine. This is the engine that most commonly gets confused for the 7.3 Power Stroke, and a 7.3 Power Stroke this is not. The only thing that's shared between them is pretty much the name of 7.3. Yeah. Engine block is completely different, but the biggest difference, which doesn't exist on 93 and 94 models of the IDI, but they are still the IDI, is that there's no turbocharger. I will say one thing to mention about the air cleaner over here, other than the fact that it looks like it's off a carbureted engine and probably wasn't retightened properly. So when this thing broke down, I had to take that off so I could spray a little you-know-what into the engine. It was a complete and utter pain in the ass to get back on. Granted, I was doing it in half darkness, and that I'm sure that has something to do with it, but there's that. Another thing to mention about the way they designed this engine is that everything is on top. Alternator's on top, the air conditioner's on top. The only thing that's on the bottom is the flywheel for the engine itself. Or I think you call that a flywheel, whatever. Washer fluid, which I need to put some in. This is, of course, the AC compressor. The other side is over there. That's where you put the R134. I think this may have been converted at one point, but it does actually work with R134. Not as well as it used to, but you get the idea. Rad here, not necessary for a 7.3 IDI if you've watched Zip Ties and Bias Plies. This whole engine, if you've watched him, will seem very familiar to you. Injection pumps over here, and this is basically another throttle. Makes it redline for a good time. Mint. Move over, you'll see the alternator. Here's a battery, I think this is the main battery. The other battery is underneath the tubing for the air cleaner. And I think behind here is where the fuel filter is. I think when the water in fuel light comes on is when you're supposed to replace that. Again, I have to look through the manual, but yeah, I've totally run out of things to talk about. So as for future plans, as I've probably mentioned at some point throughout this video, but I'm not going back to because I refuse to rewatch the film until I actually edit it. The first plan was to fix all the issues with it, which I've mostly done. Again, all I have to fix is issues with the fuel tanks, mainly the front one leaking. It'd be nice to have 2 tanks so I could, fully take advantage of the mileage this thing could possibly get. It does get 9 miles to a gallon, which is absolutely hilarious in this day and age for everybody except for me. And on top of that, I've got a new fender for it, which came from the pull-apart off an F-150. Bed, I'm gonna get a new bed for it. Put these bed sides on a single rear wheel bed because they're easier to find, and have it not be as rusted. And of course, clean off the miscellaneous rust and probably the running board, which got spray paint on it. And after all of that, this thing is going to go into a paint shop to be repainted in black. Yeah, we're doing that. And after all of that is said and done, hopefully we'll have a really nice truck. After that, I do plan on putting a turbo and possibly turning up the injection pump, and I can't think of a whole lot else beyond that, other than maybe replacing that shitty head unit. Well, that's about all I have for the truck, but I do have a couple more things I want to talk about. I will get to the shirt. First off, recently we've reached the of my original YouTube channel. Yes, believe it or not, I've been doing this shit for crazy to think how long it's been, since 2014. I don't have any plans for that. All I gotta say is, sorry, I'm an idiot. It's only been 8 years. So, all I gotta say is, welcome to year 9. Truly is a something. I don't even know what the fuck I'm talking about anymore. Second off, what the hell was I gonna say here? Third off, I finally have shirts, or rather, a singular shirt. Now, this is not the only style or color that it comes in. In fact, I have a whole store, and it's all just the same shirt, but in different styles. I don't know why Teespring does this, but it kind of sucks. I hate it, but, well, I'll take what I can get. So yes, I am selling this shirt in a variety of colors and styles, and different fits as well. So the link is in the description. You can buy it, or you cannot. I don't know. I mean, the last person I told about this seemed to be really into the idea, so I guess we're going to keep going with this. No, that's it. That's all I have. Get the fuck out of here.